One of the reasons it's been so weird to watch as everybody tries to draw battle lines between the White House and the liberals, between the Obama administration and the lefty progressive Democratic base, is because if you're looking for intra-Democratic Party battle lines, there's such an obviously better place to draw them. Today, for example, you could have found one at the Conservative Heritage Foundation.
Today, in my view, raising anyone's taxes, given our fragile economy, would be a move in the wrong direction. I favor extending all of the expiring tax cuts.
That was Ben Nelson, a Democratic senator who decided it would be a good idea today to drop by the Heritage Foundation to talk about how much he supports the Republican plan on taxes. Ben Nelson is not even up for re-election this year. He just, randomly in the middle of a really tough election year, headed on down to the Heritage Foundation to see what he could do to help out his party. I mean, the other party. Same goes for Senator Mary Landrieu of Louisiana. Mary Landrieu is also a Democrat. She is also not up for re-election herself this year, but she is happily campaigning away on the Republican side against the Obama administration's offshore drilling moratorium. In fact, she is blocking confirmation of the president's nominee to lead the Office of Management and Budget because of the drilling issue, which is great news for her home state Republican colleague, Senator David Vitter, who is not just a man with a hooker problem. He's also the man with the hooker problem who is running for re-election in Louisiana this year. And he is, of course, totally on board with Mary Landrieu's decision to hold up the president's budget director as retribution for the offshore oil drilling moratorium. So Mary Landrieu, again, a Democrat, not up for re-election this year, has somehow found the time and energy to provide political cover for a Republican senator who is up for re-election this year, and to also stop the White House from getting a budget director all at the same time. Where is there a liberal I can yell at for this? Then there are the Democrats who are up for re-election this year, who, given the choice to defend their own record and stand up for the Democratic Party and what Democrats have accomplished, have instead decided to run as Republicans, sort of, or at least to campaign on how much they voted with John Boehner. Oh, you think I'm kidding?
I'm the most independent member of Congress. I try to bring people together to make good things happen for our country. I'm Bobby Bright. I approve this ad.
Did you catch that at the end? Democratic congressman showing you a picture of himself next to a picture of John Boehner, bragging in giant yellow letters about how often he votes with the Republican leader. 80% of the time. That's Democratic Congressman Bobby Bright's campaign message. Vote for me. I'm basically a Republican. Here's another ad by a Democratic congressman trying to hold on to a seat this year.
When President Obama and Nancy Pelosi pressured Chet Edwards, Chet stood up to them and voted no against their trillion-dollar health care bill and no to cap and trade. Chet votes with the Conservative Chamber of Commerce 67% of the time.
What, no picture of Nancy Pelosi morphing into Saddam Hussein? Congressman Chet Edwards campaigning for re-election as a Democrat by running against the Democratic Party. As Sam Stein pointed out on this show last night, it was only 2 years ago that Chet Edwards' name was being floated by Nancy Pelosi as a potential vice presidential running mate for President Obama. And now Chet Edwards is campaigning for re-election as a Democrat by campaigning against how evil the Democratic Party is and how awful its leaders are. So it's fine if you want there to be a little, who feels enthused, who feels disappointed, who feels resentful, how you feeling fight between the administration and the left. Fine if you want to talk about that. But the conservative side of the Democratic Party is waging full-on electoral war against the Democratic Party. In effect, working to get more Republicans elected this year. So why isn't that where the battle lines are being drawn? Joining us now is Arianna Huffington, co-founder and editor-in-chief of Huffington Post and author of the new book, Third World America. Arianna, it's so nice to have you here.
Great to be here, Rachel.
Democrats seem to be okay with conservative Democrats sort of waging war against their own party. Why is that?
It's as if the president sort of hopes that one day maybe one of them will be the 60th vote on some compromise piece of legislation, and therefore he cannot afford to really take them on. It's also something else, which is that maybe progressives and the middle class need to sort of face up to the fact that the president is not that much into them. That he would rather hang out with Larry Summers or flirt with Olympia Snow or play war games late into the night with General Petraeus. And there is something about that, too, plus the fact that he has compromised his own arch narrative. Remember, he set up a deficit commission before he set up a jobs commission. And we're not talking here about a marginal issue. We're talking about the core issue of the Democratic Party, which is jobs and protecting the middle class and working people. So when you do that, and when you go against your own campaign promise and allow offshore oil drilling just before the BP disaster, you don't draw a clear line in the sand. I'm not talking about absolute purity. I mean, both parties need to be big tents. But when it comes to the core issues of jobs, of protecting the environment, he hasn't been that clear.
But even in your response, which is about how the administration has approached these things, that's where I gravitate toward, too, is to say, oh, you know what, president is not left enough. The center is not left enough. But the people who are on the right of the Democratic Party pay essentially no electoral price for what they have done. I mean, whatever happened to Ben Nelson for what he did? Whatever happens to Mary Landrieu for what she did? There's no... the people who even have decided to run challengers against these folks in primaries get mostly denounced by mainstream liberals.
But you see, I think that this is the wrong framing, because I don't see it as a left versus right or left versus moderate. I think when we present it that way, we marginalize basic, fundamental positions that are for the good of this country, whether you're conservative or liberal. It's like a country without a middle class is a third world America country. Yeah. You know, it's not good for anybody. It's not even good for the very rich who are going to be behind gates protecting their kids from kidnapping with armed guards. It's not good for anyone. And if we just present it, well, the left, you know, wants a jobs bill. Oh, my God. Right. You know, what an extreme marginal position. Or the left doesn't want to extend the Bush tax cuts to the richest Americans who've already gotten the bulk of the wealth creation since 1979. So I feel we need to stop presenting these as left-wing positions, because I think these are really positions essential to the good of America. And why is Ben Nelson always called a moderate by the media? You know, what's moderate about him? Wanting to destroy the middle class, thinking that you can actually control the deficit without growing the economy?
Right. Well, you look at the record of Ben Nelson, though. You look at what he personally maneuvered to get taken out of the stimulus, and you think about what that could have done in terms of economic stimulus to this country and what we really needed, what that could have done for jobs. He had no rational economic argument for trying to make the stimulus smaller. He just liked the idea of it being smaller. And so who gets blamed for that? President Obama.
Right, but then...
it's a Ben Nelson problem.
But then to also answer your question again about why isn't he taking on Ben Nelson, why isn't the president doing that? Remember, he also did not adopt Christine Romer's proposal for a bigger stimulus bill.
Right.
And Lloyd George, you know, the British Prime Minister, said you cannot jump across a chasm in 2 leaps. And that's what he did with the stimulus. And now the other side is using this as an example of government not working instead of government presenting an inadequate solution.
Do you think that in the immediate future there will be consequences for for Democrats who veer too far right? So far there are very few consequences for people who do that.
There may be electoral consequences, depending on what happens in November, because I think candidates are really misreading the polls. I don't really think that the public is angry because government is too big. I think that the public is angry because government has been completely incompetent and not standing up for the interest of the public.
Arianna Huffington from Huffington Post with the new book, Third World America. It's always such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming in, Arianna. Great to see you.